It's showtime. Happy Sunday. Happy week 13. On Tuesday, we said happy week 13, even though it was still week 12. But now today is officially week 13. And we are ready to help you with your fantasy football questions. We are the Fantasy Football Buzz, and this is our podcast. And with me today, as always, is Cyclop and 2020. How are you guys doing today on this beautiful Sunday morning?
Feeling good.
Yeah.
Feeling good. Excited for week 13.
Yes.
Have buys in some leagues, playoff positioning, all kinds of things. What about you, 2020? How you doing?
Yeah, good. In 2 leagues, I'm the top scorer, and I've got buys in both of those. In our league, I'm fighting for my playoff life with some really hard decisions to make. Actually looking at possibly benching Alvin Kamara for Latavius Murray, if you can believe that.
Wow.
And another league also fighting for a playoff life with a team that just got decimated by injury, but is now healthy at the right time. So
weren't we talking? We were talking during the week, and you were talking about benching Kamara because you have Murray, but you also have Swift, who is now, I believe, listed as out for today, right?
And I have exactly. And the question is, do I roll with Jonathan Taylor and that very, very tasty matchup that he has with just a backfield that you don't know, because he had 22 carries just 2 weeks ago before he went out, but it is such a questionable backfield. It might be that weird week in fantasy where I actually start Lat Murray and Kamara together. Here's the thought.
We talked about that. That's amazing.
It's one of those interesting things when it's almost like we're all poker players here, and you look at the odds, right? With Latavius Murray and Kamara, and this isn't just about me. This is because most people, or a lot of people that have Kamara, have Murray as well. They drafted him as the backup. Think about this for a second. One of them is going to go off against this Atlanta team. And generally, either one of them is getting almost 23, 24, 25 points. So if the other one only gets you 7, 8, 9, 10 points, think about that as we're looking at a zero-sum game. That's 35 points you're getting out of your 2 running backs. So if you go into a week thinking you're going to get 17 and 18 out of each one respectively, you're actually kind of happy about that.
Right.
So it's actually an interesting decision to ponder. I don't know if I'm going to do it, but looking at it that way, odds, actual points, what you're happy to get. If you have Kamara and Murray, I felt it coming. I don't know that I'm doing it, but this was actually I was going to bring this up later in situations like this. Do you have the balls to do that?
Do you know, I was looking over our draft board recently, just actually yesterday, and I was looking, and it's like, and I was kind of looking at the amount of first 3-round picks that are either been hurt, out for extended time, all of these things. I was just trying to do a little bit of analysis, and then I started looking, and I know we were having that conversation. Murray was like your 14th round pick, and Kamara is obviously your first round pick.
Right.
And Commish, you also had a pick that you're starting. Gibson, who you ended up making a trade for. So Gibson, I think, was like your 8th or 10th round pick or something in that range.
Yeah, he was late. He was a late pick.
And you ended up getting Derrick Henry in a trade. So It's amazing sometimes how these things work out. Which
what
obviously
was that
Henry was
for? What's your bet? I'm curious.
My bet is that Kamara will have more points than Murray today.
That's easy though. That's not what I'm talking about. Here's the real bet. Would you the running back pairing? My venture, and I'm not 100%.
You're breaking up quite a bit.
Let's do this, Keith. I want to get to what you're saying. I really do. So let's get to that. But in the meantime, what I want to do, I want to bring on the number here. We will love to take on your questions. Sunday morning is a great day for everybody to ask their questions. If you want to know who to start, who to sit, maybe some waiver pickups, some stashes that you want for the playoffs.
That's right. Yeah.
We're here to help you. There's 2 ways to get us. You can either call us at 772-800-BUZZ starting in about 1 minute, or you can comment in Facebook Live or YouTube Live, and we will answer your questions today. And what we're going to do in the meantime, while we're waiting for questions or between questions, what we're going to do is we're going to go over each position, starting with quarterback, and then we will go down the list and give you updates and recommendations for each of those positions for what's going on today. We're not going to do your typical sit, start, everybody knows who to start. Everybody knows who to sit. This is
this week, not necessarily.
What I mean is,
but yes,
you're starting
the
Derrick
main
Henry.
people.
You're starting,
right.
yeah. So
right.
we know that. But what we're going to do is we're going to go over some of what's going on in the NFL to help you make your decisions, because this is a crucial week, like Brad said. And, a lot of people are fighting for their playoff life, like 2020 in one of his leagues. So, we'll see what happens. And give us a call, comment on YouTube Live or Facebook Live. We will get right to your questions. But what we're going to do right now, we're going to jump right into quarterbacks. And what kind of information, what kind of updates do we have on quarterbacks that are going to be before we do that, we're actually getting a call. Good morning. Welcome to the Buzz. Who's calling?
Hey, good morning. This is Dan from Florida. How are you guys?
What's up, Dan?
Hey, Dan.
What's going on, Dan?
Two questions, if you'll first one is, I have Brandon Cooks, who's been fair, but a little bit of disappointment this year. I'm wondering how much of an increase I can expect out of him without a Will Fuller there.
A big increase.
Yeah, I'm bullish on him. He's been. I agree with you, Dan, because
The focus of the offense?
Yes, I do.
Yes. Yeah, they're not doing it. Even with David Johnson coming back, I don't think they're doing a very good job running the ball. Desean Watson has been playing absolutely lights out lately. And it's almost been like a DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett thing. Which receiver is he going to focus on? Obviously, Fuller just exploded. But Cooks has been very serviceable. If you look at his numbers, it hasn't been bad. With Fuller out, it's going to be him and Kiki Cootie, like we like to say.
Yeah.
But I like Brandon Cooks a lot for the rest of the year.
Well, today in particular, he's actually most likely going to be matched up against Rock Ya-Sin. And if people are concerned about the Indy defense being so great, this is the one Achilles heel that Indy has, which is Rock Ya-Sin as the cornerback. He's one of the worst cornerbacks in the league. And there is a significant advantage for starting Brandon Cooks today. So not just, for today, of course, we said, but for the rest of the year too, having Brandon Cooks is definitely a plus right now.
With
and you're
Cooks
welcome, Dan, for me dropping him for you.
Now, Will Fuller, with obviously him being gone, you take Brandon Cooks.
Hold on, Brad. Go ahead, Dan.
So most people think of the year 2020 as being a disaster. It's kind of a punchline. We can't wait for 2021 to go away. I'm wondering what the addition of your very own 2020 and your team there has, what has he brought to the table since joining in the mid-season?
As only Dan could ask that question.
I actually have nothing to say. I'm waiting for Keith to tell us what have you brought to the table.
I'm not going to sit here and tell you what I brought to the table. That's for you guys to answer.
As far as what coming to, because I didn't quite hear the whole question.
He asked, "What did I bring to the show? What am I bringing to the table and bringing to the show?" Other than my exceptional good looks.
Well, actually, Dan, we had offered you to join us on the show. You declined. The offer's still out there. So anytime you want to come on and join the Buzz, you're there. But no. In all honesty, Keith does bring a lot of insight, and he also takes on being the punching bag without too much resistance. And
I just look at the source and I grade it. So, pretty easy.
Because I noticed how 2020, he's always like in his other leagues, he's lighting it up. He's kind of high. But in the leagues that we're with, he's struggling to make the playoffs, struggling to get out of the cellar, struggling to find pizza boys. But my other the girls from the Niagara Falls area.
Could we get this guy who's clogging up our phone lines off our lines so maybe we could take some real lineup questions?
He actually has another question. What was that, Dan?
No, that was my question. Just saying how in his other leagues he's always lighting it up, and the leagues with people we know, he's really struggling, and it's like the girl from the Niagara Falls area. Who,
just remind me, Dan,
really
because my memory doesn't serve me well. Tell me, when was your last championship in this league?
Okay, so we're gonna.
All right, all right,
Dan.
We're starting to get personal. Let's
appreciate it, man.
Do you have any other questions?
Right.
So, Dan, I do want to respond to the Cooks question. Okay, so Brandon Cooks has target-wise Okay, over the past 4 games, 5, 5, 8, and 9. So 5 last week, 5 the week before. He's getting yards, 80 over 80, 3 out of those 4 weeks, but only 1 touchdown over those 4 weeks. Now, obviously, Will Fuller's been lighting it up. The thing with this is Cooks is not as fast as Fuller, but he's going to become the deep threat as it looks like. But he also will probably get more double coverage because of this. And he goes against a weak cornerback today, but you got to be a little bit careful. Obviously, his targets should go up to the 8 to 10 range, but you do have to be a little bit careful without having that speedster on the team to stretch the field a little bit. That's my take on that.
All right. Sounds good. Listen, we got Kenneth on the phone. Kenneth, how you doing today?
Oh, pretty good. I got an update regarding a couple players that might be of interest to you.
Well, we're going to be doing our updates throughout the show. We would love for you to listen, and if we miss something, definitely give us a call or a comment. Do you have any questions about your lineup or what's going on?
From what I'm trying to figure out if I should start Jerry Jeudy against KC, or I should go ahead and roll with Brandon Cooks.
Brandon Cooks. Not even a question.
Yep.
Absolutely.
We will all agree with Cooks. We just talked about him. No brainer.
No, we're going to be doing our updates. We're going to be doing them by position, so we'll probably hit them. But like I said, if we don't hit those updates, feel free to give us a call later on in the show or a comment, and we will definitely bring those up. All right.
Thanks.
All right, thanks, Kenneth. All right, we do have a couple questions coming in.
All right.
So let's go to the first one. We have from Javi, David Johnson or Snell in a PPR.
That's easy. That's Snell today. And I'll get to that in my updates, but it doesn't look like Connor is going to play. Of course, because it's a Monday game, we're not really sure until Monday what the story is.
Correct.
But all indications right now, and I'll get to that in a second, are that Connor won't play, that bring in Snell. David Johnson will most likely be sharing carries with Duke Johnson for now. So I'll definitely go with Snell.
Yeah. And they don't run the ball particularly well anyway. And then Duke Johnson generally gets more catches than David Johnson. So at this point, they're Snell. Yes. Okay. Let's go to the next one. Here we go from Jose. Trubisky, Stafford, or I assume it's Taysom Hill, not Tyreek Hill.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
That is interesting.
Kind of like Hill here, right? I mean, Hill has been punching it in a couple times a game. He's not entirely lighting it up through the year, but this is a really, Atlanta's defense is a little better than people give him credit for against the pass, but that's not Hill's game. I see Hill probably giving you a couple touchdowns on the ground just versus those two options. Stafford without Galladay, I don't love it. I'd probably go Taysom Hill here and love that matchup. I
agree with you, Keith, and I think that if you have, Drew Brees is going to be coming back, so you might as well utilize Taysom Hill while you can.
Exactly.
We just, over those 3 quarterbacks, now Trubisky is kind of a throwout, although he can have those big games, and he's going against the Lions at home. And then Stafford, of course, going against the Bears in Chicago. But we're talking about a guy who is listed as a tight end. We just took over Stafford and Trubisky to start your quarterback.
It's a system. It's all about the system, man.
Yeah, no.
It really is.
And we got another Goff versus Trubisky on the next question, and I think that's a no-brainer. Goff as well. Goff should have a decent game.
I agree. I don't agree it's a no-brainer, but I agree. Goff, I have him rated higher. I have Goff at number 16, and I have Trubisky at 18. So they're pretty close, but Goff is definitely out of those two the choice.
And the Rams are against the Cardinals. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, the Rams against the Cardinals.
That's why I like the matchup. I think it's going to be a big
in a dome. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you got Tyler Boyd or Cootie. And that's a tough one with the rookie quarterback throwing it to Tyler against Miami's pretty improved secondary. I honestly think just because it's Brandon Allen throwing the ball, I think I'd go Cootie. He's got a much better quarterback there. And I really think starting to come on. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you go with Cootie today. Boyd, you just don't know from week to week. And if the matchup with Boyd happens to be with Xavier Howard, then he's going to run into a lot of problems today.
Right.
So
I just wish they would trade Cootie to Carolina so Cootie can catch a pass from Titty. I think that'd be great.
Okay, so we go with Kiki on that one.
Okay.
All right.
Gotta have some fun on the Sunday.
All right. So let's do this. We're going to jump into quarterbacks.
Okay.
In the meantime, if anybody has any questions, you have any comments, you want to know what's going on, give us a call 772-800-BUZZ or comment in YouTube Live or Facebook Live comment section, and we will get to it live on the air. In the meantime, what's going on with the quarterbacks? What can people expect today in Week 13?
Okay, so just some interesting updates. Not that it's going to affect this week, but it is interesting that Drew Brees looks like he might return next week. So start your Taysom Hill up this week, but you might have Drew Brees coming back next week off of IR. So that's interesting news. As far as injury-related news with other quarterbacks, Phillip Rivers, who's had that toe designation, no issue there, expected to start in Week 13 versus the Texans. Looks like a very good start. Lamar Jackson, who missed last game and RG3 had to fill in, expected to come off the COVID list and start Tuesday night. So weird, their last two games were on a Wednesday and a Tuesday. When has that ever happened for a football team? Yep. And Tua looks like he is available to start this week, which is interesting. I actually had Fitzpatrick on my start list until this news. So Tua is expected to start in Week 13. He was a GTD, but he is good to go. So have fun with that, Dolphins Nation. Cam Newton, barf, is also expected to start in Week 13. He had hamstring injuries, but it looks like he is okay and is able to make it this week. And then Nick Foles, as we just talked about, is going to be in a reserve role this week as Mitch Trubisky is going to take over the reins there. Here's interesting, not so much terribly from a fantasy perspective, but from a possibly sneaky defensive play. Daniel Jones is out this week, and they're bringing in Colt McCoy to start in Week 13.
I didn't even know Colt McCoy was still in the league, to be honest.
Neither did I.
That always happens with the backups,
Yes, it's an interesting start for that defense. I believe they're playing Seattle, who was on a record pace, and we'll talk about that as you guys get into defenses, but they just put up some decent numbers last week against Philly. So interesting start with Colt McCoy behind center there. Big Ben has a neck injury. He's listed as questionable, probably going to play, but right now be careful and watch for that. He does have that questionable tag on Monday Night Football, and that doesn't, of course, just affect him. That affects his all-stud, all-pro 3 receivers that he has there. And then we already talked about Daniel Jones is sitting out. Kyler Murray, he's been a little bit banged up with that shoulder. He practiced in full, so it looks like he is going to be playing as well. So those are the updates, and we're going to do our starters or our pick-em last-minute starters after that, or we're doing that now?
No, go ahead. Let's talk about what
get into it. Okay. So I'm kind of blown away that this guy has so much availability. It's not a ton, but I believe he's the 9th ranked quarterback, and that's Ryan Tannehill. And he's got a really nice matchup in Cleveland. I say that their secondary is much improved, but Cleveland's scoring and Tennessee is banged up. Not banged up, but their secondary is not phenomenal. So I like this as a high-scoring game. He's available in over 35% of ESPN leagues, a little less available in Yahoo. But this guy, he's just been doing it. He's got, like I said, what I like is a pretty nice matchup versus Cleveland. And what's interesting about him, he's getting touchdowns, averaging about 2 a week. He's starting to see them on the ground a little bit. That's picking up a little bit. He had a nice rushing touchdown last week. It was a beautiful play call at the goal line. Everyone expected to go to Derrick Henry. He had about 35 yards rushing just a couple of weeks ago, but he's got that great chemistry with A.J. Brown, always good for 1 or 2 deep balls. I like Ryan Tannehill.
What else do you got?
I'm getting there. Wow, you're impatient. Okay, so that's Ryan Tannehill.
We have a lot of questions we got to answer, so I just wanted – that's all.
Okay, I'm just giving you my stuff there. Hold on a second. So I also love – Kirk Cousins this week, also very available, only owned in 34% of ESPN leagues and 55% of Yahoo leagues, which is absolutely blowing my mind. These are his touchdown totals over the last 4 weeks: 3, 3, 2, and 3. For those of you that are doing math on Sunday, that's 11 touchdowns in 4 weeks, and he's had 2 300-yard games and nearly another third 300-yard game there, and he's going against Jacksonville. The only downside here is this could be a heavy Dalvin Cook game, but I love Kirk Cousins here. I have him as my 10th ranked quarterback. Then we have Phillip Rivers. I talk about this guy every week because he pretty much is being very, I would say, better than serviceable every week, and he's still only owned in 15% of ESPN leagues and 36% of Yahoo leagues. And these are his touchdown totals over the last 3 weeks: 2, 3, and against a Tennessee, he only had 1, but he's putting up close to 300 yards, if not 300 yards as well. I love him this week. Fire him up against Houston, which has a very porous defense, and it should be a high-scoring game.
All right, so your recommendations, we've got Tannehill, Cousins, Rivers.
That's
right.
Correct. Yep. And
okay. Let's do this. Let's jump to one of the questions that we have here. We've got Taylor wants to know. That's a pretty good team. He needs 2 running backs, 2 receivers, and a flex. I assume it's PPR or at least half-point PPR. To me, this is pretty easy. Your 2 running backs can be Eckler and Robinson. Right. Your 2 wide receivers would be Lockett and Cooks, and your flex Kamara. I think that's pretty. I don't know if you guys agree on that one.
I mean that looks pretty standard. Yeah, Eckler, Robinson.
Holy cow, that team. Yeah.
Lockett, Cooks. Aguilar is going to play. Gurley, even if he plays, forget. I do like Deebo Samuel here. Frank Gore definitely not. Although he put up some yards last week, but he's 40 years old, running back.
Deebo might have a high ceiling, Brad. I don't think he's getting more points though on a regular basis than somebody like Lockett or Cooks. And with
Ayuk back there, it's going to be very different. With Ayuk was the go-to guy there. Right. And it's going to look a lot different.
You run into the Alvin Kamara question mark. Is Deebo saying, do you put Deebo in instead of Kamara?
Obviously, Kamara is the second highest scoring running back in fantasy football this year. And if you bench him, you're going to have problems. I think those top 5 that you listed there are the 5 you go.
You got Kamara.
In the last 3 weeks, or 2 weeks, I believe, since Taysom Hill has been quarterback, he has 1 catch.
Yeah, I know. And what they're going to say is he's due. Look, I just don't agree with benching your,
He's the squeaky wheel this week. I
agree.
You're going to start Eckler. You're going to start Eckler, Robinson, and Kamara here, and go with Cooks and Lockett. I think that's. I don't like Gurley here against a tough New Orleans defense with Hill and Ito Smith there as well. So, I think that looks like a solid starting lineup there.
Okay, let's go ahead. We're going to jump into running backs right now. Now, I'm not going to necessarily go into streamers because with running backs, it's difficult to have streamers. Most running backs have already been taken. Even the backups of the backups have been taken in most leagues because running backs are so valuable. So what I really want to do is just go over some of the ones that are more important that might have an impact on what's going to happen today. And we already talked about the fact that Connor is eligible to come off of the COVID list on Monday, tomorrow. But it's unlikely that he's going to play. So in that case, it's looking like another week for Benny Snell. If you have Snell Jr., I think you're safe starting him. But remember, since it's a Monday game, if it turns out that Connor does start and Snell's not going to get a lot of carries, be ready to have a backup in that case. Clyde Edwards-Hilaire, he didn't practice again yesterday, and he's listed as questionable for the game tonight because he's got a stomach problem. I think you have to wait until pregame warmups. It's probably going to be a game time decision with him. So again, be ready to have a backup for CEH. Madison, a lot of people picked up Madison this week, not only because we recommended that they pick up Madison in case something happens to Cooks, but right now he had an appendicitis. He had appendectomy surgery, and it looks like it's Amir Abdullah who's going to be the backup to Cook in the event that there's a problem. Cook is fine, by the way. It was just an issue that he had last week, but he's okay now. But, the Madison pickup isn't going to help you today. Myles Gaskin, the Dolphins don't even know who to start week to week at running back because they're either getting hurt, they're getting COVID. or they're being dropped. So right now it's Myles Gaskin. He has been officially activated off of the injured reserve, and it looks like he's going to get the start today because Salvin Ahmed and Matt Breida and DeAndre Washington are all hurt. So it's really just between Patrick Laird and Myles Gaskin. So it looks like Gaskin is going to be the guy. He was actually doing really well before he got hurt. He was averaging close to 17 carries per game. So anytime you get a running back getting 17 carries a game, most likely you're looking at, somebody who's going to do well. He's probably a borderline RB2 at this point. DeAndre Swift downgraded to doubtful. He will most likely not play, which means we're going to see that continued increase for Adrian Peterson, but also Kerryon Johnson. If you're going to ask me, should you start Johnson or Peterson? I'm not sure. It's going to be a timeshare with Peterson most likely getting the touchdowns and Kerryon getting the catches and the yards. Mark Ingram, remember him, guys? He was activated off the COVID list. The question is, who are they going to play? We don't know. The Ravens don't even know. So I would actually stay away from Ingram, although he will be active at that point. Jordan Howard, nobody cares, but he was elevated to the active roster, back with the Eagles now. David Johnson, who's had that concussion problem, he's officially activated. Now, we know that C.J. Prosise has already been ruled out, so it's really just going to be him and Duke Johnson in the backfield. But I think you're going to see some timeshares while they ease David Johnson back in. Chris Carson, there were a lot of concern. We talked about this on Tuesday, that Chris Carson, whether or not it was just easing him back in, or are we going to see a split between Carlos Hyde and Chris Carson? Pete Carroll's already come out again. Not that we ever believe anything Pete Carroll said.
You're so optimistic.
But we were told that Chris Carson will be getting more touches in Week 13. Proof is in the pudding. We shall see. Todd Gurley's been questionable all week, but it does look like he's going to play. Josh Jacobs, he has been ruled out against the Jets, which is a shame because he probably would have done very well against the Jets. So it looks like Devontae Booker is going to be the guy who's going to be getting all of the carries today for the Raiders. If you have Devontae Booker, I'm looking at him as an RB2 with high upside. Definitely start Booker if you need him. And, there's other things, but nothing that really is going to impact your roster today. But that's the running back news for today. Let me see. And before we go to wide receivers, I just wanted to give out the phone number again, 772-800-BUZZ. Give us a call or comment in YouTube Live or Facebook Live.
And speaking about just some of those players that you were just talking about, we have a question here for, let's see, flex position. Devontae Booker, Myles Gaskin, or Robert Woods. It's a good position to be in to have these players.
Is this PPR?
It does not say, but I believe it is because we've had questions from MathQuest is the name. Over the past 2 weeks, check this out. Targets for Robert Woods, 15 and 12.
Yeah, I like Woods for sure.
He has been amazing. He gets runs. He gets targets. Going against Arizona today. It's a half-point PPR. But you have Booker, who's going to get a ton of carries there, you would imagine. And they're going against the Jets. And then Myles Gaskin, of course, against Cincinnati. Now he's coming back from being injured. So how much are they going to play him? Are they going to be up? Are they going to use Laird?
I think Gaskin and Booker are both going to have very good games.
Yes.
Yeah.
The question is whether or not it's going to be more than Woods, right?
I got to say, at times, Booker's looked like the better back there. Jacobs is great, but man, that kid is explosive. A great one-cut runner. I love Booker.
Yeah, and I kind of mentioned, I guess erroneously, that Jacobs would have had a good day against the Jets. The Jets actually have a very good run defense.
They do.
But I don't know. Like my first reaction, Brad, was like what you said was go with Robert Woods because he's Robert Woods. But Devontae Booker might be up for a big day today. This is a really tough one for me. Robert Woods is a sure thing, right? We know he's going to do well. The other two, we don't know.
But they have, but I think Booker's got a bigger upside than Gaskin.
Yes, he does.
Out of these three, we always right try to tend to go. Now Rashard comes in and gets some catches, and he's probably gonna spell Booker today. But I think I was thinking about this right also because now Josh Jacobs is out and Booker's coming in, and Booker's looked great coming in to spell Jacobs during the year. But every time these running backs get the start, they have a crappy game.
Right, like at Madison.
Right,
Oh my God,
exactly.
Yeah.
So, it's like you expect him to have this great game, but what happens? So maybe go with the kind of the solid guy, with Woods. But if you're feeling a little crazy, go with Booker.
I would say if you're in a PPR, I would give Woods a little more consideration, maybe lean towards that.
Yeah, he's at a half-point PPR.
A half-point PPR.
It's a half-point. Yeah. I understand that. I would probably stay with Booker. Go with the guy that you know is going to touch the ball 17 to 20 times a game. I always like that.
All right, we got Kenneth back on the phone. Kenneth, how are you?
All right.
Pretty good. The reason I was calling is there's one running back y'all forgot to mention when y'all were doing the running back updates. According to what I'm hearing from Ian Rappaport of NFL Network, you can add Phillip Lindsay to the active list.
Yes, Phillip Lindsay will be playing today, but he will be sharing with Melvin Gordon.
Yeah.
And when you get to receivers, go ahead and add Jerry Jeudy to that list as well. Because according to what I'm hearing, he's scheduled to play as well.
All right. Thank you so much, Kenneth. We appreciate it.
No problem.
All right.
Thanks, Kenneth.
Why don't we move on to receivers?
All right, let's do it.
All right, so we're going to go through some of the injuries, some of the people playing. We have Julio Jones, kind of lost in space, this guy, right? But he's expected to play today against New Orleans. I don't know. If you have him, I guess you start him, but who knows? When's the last time he played? A couple weeks ago.
The thing is, if he's going to play, you have to start him.
You have to start him. I know.
Because he does not have those bad games. He either has no games or good games.
Right.
If he's going to play, and this could be a last-minute thing, if he's starting, you start Julio Jones.
Because that's what Matt Ryan looks for. That's why Matt Ryan without Julio Jones is just
can be a little
very,
lost.
very vanilla because all he does is look for Julio Jones.
And it probably actually helps the other receivers there by having Julio Jones on the field for sure. Okay. Yeah. Allen Robinson got hurt during the week, but he is expected to play against the Lions today, who are completely porous defense. And of course, you have Mitch Trubisky. If you have him, you start him.
Is there a more underrated wide receiver in the league than Allen Robinson? I don't know if we've brought this up before, but
fantasy-wise or
I think just in general, because I believe he's going to be a free agent in 2020. I mean, 2021. Quite frankly, yes, he did it to himself by going to Chicago, but he's been with two very bad passing teams, and yet he has become the star on each of those teams. Can you imagine what it would be like if he was on
with Aaron Rodgers? I could see him going to Green Bay.
He is just.
He would be.
Can you imagine him in Green Bay opposite to Adams? That would be unstoppable.
Absolutely.
And that's a great place for him to land. Yep.
Okay, Deebo Samuel practiced fully. He seems good to go against Buffalo. Brandon Ayuk, so they're going to have both their wide receivers back there and healthy. It might be the first time those two play together all year. I'm not even sure. Terry McLaurin still questionable. We haven't heard anything about him yet. But of course, that adds value if he doesn't play to Mims. Then you have Nelson Aguilar, limited in practice, but he seems to be good to go today against the Jets. He's kind of a boomer bust player, but if you're looking for someone that has an upside, go with him. DJ Shark looks good to go against the Vikings. It's in a dome, so you're not going to have any weather issues. He is the lead guy there. But I don't know how much you could trust him with with your backup quarterback. Who is it? Blake Bortles? No, no. Then you have Adam Humphreys. Seems to be back and good to go, which isn't a huge, value, but he does add if you need someone kind of a waiver. Now, as I was looking through my last minute waivers, a lot of them are potential good stashers as well for the playoffs. I don't know. So I'm kind of adding these two together. We talked about T.Y. Hilton. Now, Hilton also, week 14. Oh, I didn't put who he plays against next week, but he was a good matchup. He has a good matchup in week 14 as well. Again, going into this week, he was only 40% rostered. He is getting more looks now from Rivers, so he's a nice pickup for the week. Again, Perryman, who plays against the Raiders today, and we talked about early in the week, was only 12% rostered going into this week. And he also, in week 14, gets Seattle. Now, Seattle's been playing better defense, but if you're looking for a player and you need a wide receiver, he's the guy to look to. Of course, we got Kiki Kuti, who going into the week was 1% rostered in leagues.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So, yeah, he's a last-minute waiver. And then you have Lazard. Okay, Alan Lazard in week 14 has Detroit. So, he's getting more looks. Obviously, he's back and healthy. He gets single coverage. He and Rodgers seem to have this, like, last year, he had this love affair with Lazard, and he really likes him. So he has a nice week 14 matchup as well. So he would be someone to look at either for today or going into next week to stash. So those are some of my wide receiver pickups and stashes. Go ahead.
What I found interesting during the week when it came out that Marquez Callaway with New Orleans was put on IR. And I thought that the three teams that have picked up at some point or had Kenny Stills on their team could all use Kenny Stills at this point. Whether it's Houston, Miami, or New Orleans, all of them could use Kenny Stills right now.
How is he not signed
somewhere? He would be a great ad in Miami right now to help.
Yeah, it really would have been. But there's obviously a lot more to what's going on than we know.
Exactly.
We know that he had a very they did not have an amicable relationship with Stephen Ross here in Miami. So who knows? I loved Kenny Stills because of what he did for our community. I think he really gave so much money and time back to the South Florida community. So as a person, I think Kenny Stills
is a good ball player. He had 9
he is a good ball
his last season with us. Yeah, he's a great ball player. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm sorry, Brad. Were you not done?
No. That pretty much rounded out wide receivers. And as far as Kenny Stills goes, I mean, if you're getting cut from a team that now has, I think, 2 healthy wide receivers and they don't bring you back, there's a reason for that too.
Yeah. Something's up.
So before we get on to, I guess it's tight ends, we have another question coming in here from Life of Nick. Kenyon Drake or Myles Gaskin?
Drake's been on a tear. I wouldn't even question that.
100%. We go with Drake here. Not only has he been doing very well and getting catches, he's been, I don't know if you'd call it hawking some of the catches that Edmonds would have gotten, but he is in there more. But Myles Gaskin is just coming off his injury, although they only have, I think, 2 healthy running backs going into today. I still tend to go with Drake here, especially if Tua is starting.
Yeah, look, I think if anything, Tua's better for Gaskin than Fitzpatrick would be. However, not to the extent that Drake
better than Drake, right?
Right. I mean, whether or not Drake had an incredible day, if you're looking at those two, I have Drake down at number 16 today. But if you're going to, compare him to Gaskin, you got to go with Drake.
Right. All right. Here we go again from Delusional Tanner. Half point PPR, Mike Williams or Perryman? We just talked about Perryman, and Perryman gets Las Vegas today, who got absolutely ripped up last week. But it is the Jets, so you always want to be a little bit careful. But he is getting a lot of targets over the past couple of weeks.
Really coming on, yeah.
And Mike Williams is kind of that guy who's going to get,
he's the definition of boom or bust, right?
He really is.
Yeah, he's either going to get that long touchdown or something, or he's kind of like 3 for 40 or 5 for 75,
right?
Or
never a lot of catches,
or 2 for 120 and 2 touchdowns, right?
Yeah. And a half point PPR. I like Perryman here. He's getting a lot since he's come back. He's been, from a wide receiver standpoint, one of the features. Crowder still obviously important, but really has faded with Perryman and Mims. I would probably go with Perryman here.
Yeah, see, also the matchup, right? So Mike Williams is most likely going to have Stephon Gilmore as the guy covering him today. So I really don't expect Williams to really have a great day, where Brashard Perryman is going to most likely be matched up against Damon Arnett. So Arnett he's okay. He's average. So I think if you're talking about 50-50 balls or just, whether or not someone's going to be able to keep up with Perryman, I think he's your better option today. I don't normally tell you to go ahead and start a jet, but today would be that day.
So, by the way, Commish, real quick, I just want to go back because I didn't have a chance to pull this out. This is that Gaskin has a better game than Drake.
Oh, wow. All right.
I'll take that as well.
Matchup
when I get on
Drake.
Book it.
I don't like Drake.
Right,
Drake
write it
against
down,
the Rams. I don't like it. Gaskin against the hapless Cincinnati.
If anybody else thinks that Gaskin is going to have a better day, let us know. We'll bet you for $1 as well. Okay, so let's do this. Let's jump into.
Hold on.
Go ahead, Brad.
I want to give you. Perryman has been doing much better, and he seems to be the receiver there. Last week, 8 targets. He ended up 4 for 79. The week before, 4 targets, 2, but he had 2 for 54. Just one was a touchdown. The week before 2 weeks before, he was on bye. Then the week before 7, 5 for 101 with 2 touchdowns. Perryman. I still got to go Perryman here over Mike Williams. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So let's jump into tight ends real quick. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, you want to know who to start, what's going on, give us a call, 772-800-BUZZ, or comment, Facebook Live or YouTube Live. Let's talk about the tight end position.
All right. Hey, hang on. We do have one other quick question that came in here. Now, this one's interesting. This is from Alan. We got Perryman or Pittman. Ooh. And we know that Alan, from talking with him and knowing him, is fighting for his play. He's in a win and in or lose and out potentially playoff game today, I believe.
Yeah, we're battling. So I'm going to give him some bad advice here.
So Alan, whatever 2020 tells you, go the opposite.
That's exactly right. I'm not going to argue with that. Although, all kidding aside, I probably would go with Pittman. He has been coming on. Phillip Rivers has been playing really good ball. So, to stay true with the show and give you what I think is pretty sage advice, I would probably go Pittman here over Brashard Perryman.
Yeah, I agree. I would go with Pittman too. The matchup isn't necessarily the best. Houston doesn't have a great defense. He will be covered by Carson, but I still like Pittman. I like what he's done lately, and I think he's going to continue to be the guy in Indy.
I'm going to say go with Perryman here. I like that they're going against the Raiders. They're going against Houston today, which doesn't have a great defense. But Pittman, as much as he's been doing, and he's looked great, the last 2 weeks, he's got 2 for 28 and 3 for 66. Last week, he had 9 targets, 2 catches that going against Tennessee. So I think he does have that big play ability. I just think you should be careful. I'd probably go with Perryman here.
Well, also keep in mind that I know that Jerry Jeudy is available in our league, and he might be somebody you might consider picking up and starting this week over either one of those guys.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true, especially with your lock back.
Right.
All right, let's move on to tight ends. Good question, Alan. I'd like to say good luck, but I hope you feel miserably. All right, so talking with tight ends, couple not a ton of updates. There's 3 guys to look at. Zach Ertz making his long-awaited return off of the IR. He is going to be active week 13, although I don't personally like starting him this week. I really think even before Ertz got hurt, Goddard has really established himself as the tight end 1 on that team. He's the guy to have there. Irv Smith Jr. ruled out for week 13. The only significance there whatsoever is it frees up Kyle Rudolph to continue his great fantasy play or above average.
Last week. Yeah,
exactly. So Irv Smith is out. That is very good for Rudolph. And
can I say this about Rudolph real quick? Right now, Rudolph, usually what they do is the safeties cover the tight ends. And then Jacksonville, it's going to be Josh Jones, who's actually one of the worst safeties, especially in tight end coverage. So I do expect Kyle Rudolph.
Yeah, I'm going to cover that right now with that.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Unless you want to do the tight ends as well.
Sure. So
I could just sit back. Anyway, and then the last guy to talk about, thanks, Commish, is Jonnu Smith, which is just started off the year with such promise, but he is ruled out for week 13, which makes Aaron Finkster a possible look, but I don't like I don't like that fire up here. So what we're going to do is talk about with those tight ends and that news, who are we looking at starting? And we are going to start talking about Kyle Rudolph, who unbelievably to me is available in almost 85% of combined leagues, Yahoo and ESPN. And what I really like about him is he's really starting to get the targets over the last 4 weeks alone. He's received 20 targets. The yardage isn't quite there. The touchdowns I think they're going to start to come. But last week alone, 7 grabs on 8 targets for 68 yards. And it is a very tasty matchup, as Commish just pointed out against a pretty bad Jacksonville team. And then we have Jordan Reed. What I love about Jordan Reed, of course, is the fact that George Kittle isn't there. He's the tight end one there. I'm not really worried about Ross Dwelley. And Nick Mullins, to me, is I think a much improved quarterback over Jimmy Garoppolo, who is pretty inconsistent. And Jordan's had some pretty nice target shares as well in the last 3 weeks. He's had 14 targets. I like the matchup this week versus Buffalo. It's at home versus Buffalo. I like that. They don't have to deal with the swirling winds. And I think that it's going to be a high-scoring game. So I like Jordan Reed this week. And then we have Trey Burton. I've talked about this guy a few weeks. But apparently people aren't listening because he's owned in only 10% of ESPN leagues and 34% of Yahoo leagues. And he's been getting a pretty nice share of targets, over 18 targets in the last 4 weeks. And he has 2 weeks in a row where he has touchdowns. And I really like this week going against Houston. And then lastly, Dalton Schultz, another guy I keep talking about, but still very widely available. In ESPN, he's only owned in 32% of leagues. And in Yahoo, he's only owned in 20% of leagues. And this is another guy, out of all the guys we just spoke about, he's by far getting the most targets at 26 over the last 4 weeks. Threw a touchdown in there against Minnesota. He caught that grab. Now, again, tough matchup going at Baltimore, but Baltimore's secondary is fantastic. So I think they're going to have a hard time, Andy Dalton, getting the balls to the receivers. And I think he's going to look to Dalton Schultz this week. Expect 5, 6, 7, 8 catches, possibly, and hopefully a touchdown. So I do like Dalton Schultz. And that, I believe, rounds us out on tight ends.
Can I just say that real quick? Mark Andrews, he remains on the COVID list right now. He is not expected to play on Tuesday. It doesn't mean that he won't, but right now he's not expected to play. So if you have Mark Andrews, you're not going to want to wait till Tuesday to make that decision when they play. So if you have anybody else, make sure you start them over Andrews this week.
Right.
Absolutely. We got a couple questions that came in. One from my son. I love this too. We have neither of these players. I just think it's such a good question. But Juju or Playpool? And we have Juju in one league, but we don't have Playpool. Julian, I love you, man. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Claypool, he's looking like the featured receiver there. Him and Deontay. Juju's, all three are getting looks, but I just think Claypool over Juju here. Almost every week I feel like Claypool's over Juju. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think it's a toss-up, to be honest with you.
It's really a complete toss-up. I have Claypool, and he's, every week he's getting touchdowns. You see, it's like they create plays for him in the offense, which is something great to see. It's not just like, it's like he's the third look on a route. They are actually creating plays for him,
right? And
he's getting the touches, he's getting the catches. I like Claypool. Juju, it's kind of he's been solid. I think ever since week 4 or 5, he's been really solid.
Yeah. Claypool's their deep ball guy, though. And they at least 2-3 times a week, it seems like Big Ben is trying to air out a 40-50 yarder to him. But
here's right. So now we got to look at some of the other factors, right? We understand that Claypool's not going to be sitting in the slot, which means that Washington's Ronald Darby will be the guy covering him, and Washington actually has one of the best pass defenses in the league. So if Claypool's going to be matched up against Darby, and Juju, who's in the slot, is going to be up against Jimmy Moreland, then you go with Juju. And I know now we're starting to break down and get really technical,
Right.
but there is a big difference between Moreland and Darby.
I agree with you, but even on Wednesday night when they played against Baltimore, which is a better secondary than Washington, they just
I don't know if
missed.
that's true.
Baltimore secondary has been. I'm just talking about as of late, the way they've been playing has been pretty lights out. They pretty much shut them down, but they just missed on a really big play to Claypool. I mean, I forget who the cornerback was, but I mean that could have been. He could have been gone after that catch. I agree. It's kind of a toss-up. I don't know. I think Claypool is just the more.
Don't forget that Deontay Johnson is there as well. And Deontay, his targets last week or the past 3 weeks, 13, 16, 11. So, he's not necessarily the third guy out here. He might be number one to Claypool. And, we don't know. From week to week,
it's crazy.
It's different.
I haven't seen anything like this since the last time we saw Arizona. Remember when they had Fitzgerald, Anquan Bolden, and Breston? All three went for 1,000 yards. It's like pick your poison.
Did you say Breston?
Steve Breston.
Yep.
He's a 1,000-yard receiver. And Arizona, the three of them, it was unbelievable.
Yep. All right, so we have we have a tight end question.
We have a tight end. We have a tight end question from our league mate, my brother, our friend, and
former host of the show,
and apparently someone who has 3 tight ends on their roster. So you have Noah Fant, Hayden Hurst, or Kyle Rudolph.
I like Rudolph here. I just love the matchup with Smith out.
I like Rudolph as well. Yeah, he had a good week last week. He was a hot pickup for last week with Smith out.
Yeah.
Noah Fant's kind of boom or bust, right? And you just don't know what's going on.
There hasn't been a boom in a long time. He's been
Hayden Hurst
for a while.
Hayden Hurst is probably your
safe pick,
right?
But he's not doing it. He's not. What? He hasn't done it. He's not done much in a while. Hayden Hurst. He has not.
Hurst has been steady, and you're talking about a guy who, I dropped Hurst and Mike picked Hurst up and used Hurst against me last week. So, I've been following Hurst, and I think for this week, yes, Rudolph has a higher ceiling. He's got the better matchup with Josh Jones. We know that Demario Davis, who has one incredible week and one poor week, he's still one of the best covering linebackers in the league. He's going to be matched up against Hayden Hurst. If Julio Jones plays, you go with Kyle Rudolph. If Julio Jones does not play, you go with Hayden Hurst. That's
I just want to go back here from the past 2 weeks. Hayden Hurst has, 8 targets, 4 catches, 48 yards. The week before is 2 targets and 0 against New Orleans.
And that's what I'm saying.
Before that, he had a nice run, 6, 5, and 7 catches.
Yeah.
But the last couple of weeks has been pretty bad.
Right.
So I go with Rudolph here. And he writes that he actually has another tight end on his roster with Mark Andrews. It seems like a plethora of tight ends, but okay. All right, so let's go to another question here. We have Bars in the tuck. Okay, says good morning. We have pick one: Alex Smith, Mullins, Colt McCoy, or Brandon Allen. 6-point TD.
Okay,
Mahomes is my other quarterback, so it must be a 2-quarterback league. So that's pretty cool.
And I like Nick Mullins. I just think the kid he loves to air it out. He is not afraid at all. And I love that he's got Debo back. He's got Mostert as well to throw the ball out of the backfield too, along with Ayuk. I like Mullins here.
Yeah, I do. I like Alex Smith has looked good since coming back in, but he goes against Pittsburgh, so I'm not super. I wouldn't be super happy about that. Mullins, you got both guys back there, Samuel and you have your running backs back. So I mean, I like Mullins here as well.
Yeah.
It's not a great choice, guys. I like Mullins too, but I have him in the second half of my rankings. Like he's so far down. I even have him below Carson Wentz. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's anybody available in your league to pick up, but out of the ones you're giving us, then I agree. Nick Mullins is the guy.
Well, and you got to remember, this is his second quarterback. Mahomes is his other quarterback.
Okay, I got
so that's
it.
probably
Quarterback league.
Mahomes is really like having three quarterbacks on your roster right now.
Yeah.
And then he has to sit one Monty.
I would sit Montgomery just because you don't from week to week, you don't know what you're going to get from him. I like Gaskin today, not as much as Keith does. I got $1 writing on it, and I do like Gibson, of course. So I would sit Montgomery.
And then we got Gaskin versus the Bengals or Bernard. And I got to go with Gaskin here. I picked up Gio in another league, and it's him, and they've got Perryman there as well. And he had one decent week. But I like Gaskin just with the matchup instead of Bernard against the same team. You guys feel free to weigh in on that.
I like Gaskin too. I'm just going to leave it at that. Bernard has not shown anything while filling in for Joe Mixon, or at least he hasn't shown a lot.
I probably would. Man, this is tough. It's tough, and it's I almost go with Bernard today. Out of these two, I'm just worried about Gaskin with Tua there. I think they're going to be pressing the line a little bit more. I don't know.
Cincinnati's going to get a lot of free outs. Miami at home, Brandon Allen behind the helm. That offensive line is terrible. I just think it's going to be a good running game for Gaskin.
We hope so, but I'm a little worried about it. I'm going to take Bernard. Okay.
Yep. Mike's so funny. Apparently, our season is in his hands because he picked up Kyle Rudolph and he's going to play him. So we're behind you, Mikey. Julian Birkin with another good question. Tyreek Hill or DK Metcalf? That's tough. That is number 1 and 2 in receiving yards right there. I love DK. The problem in Seattle is which wide receiver is he going to focus on? And that's kind of interesting about Russell Wilson. He looks at the matchup and he says, "This is what I'm going to go." He's like Bill Belichick in that way. I'm going to ride this pony all game, and it's either a Lockett game or a Metcalf game. And if it's a Metcalf game, you know something? There are weeks I would pick him over Tyreek Hill. But Patrick Mahomes and what they're doing in that offense, I think it's hard to sit Tyreek Hill if you have to look between the two. But if you have them both on your team, I don't know how you're not starting both of them.
All right, I agree. Hey, Kenneth, what's going on? Hey, Kenneth.
Hey guys, this is Campbell House actually.
Oh, okay. How you doing, Campbell?
Good. I have a question. I can't figure out how to comment, but I had a question for you guys.
Sure.
Yeah, so I basically have CEH right now in an RB slot, and then I was starting Jamal Williams in my flex. And I'm trying to figure out if he's really sick, should I play Jamal in my RB slot? And then the other two people on my bench I could put in would be Darius Slayton or Judy in the flex slot if I move Jamal up to CEH's slot.
I would stay away from Slayton with Colt McCoy there if possible. And probably go Judy just because Drew Lock's a much better quarterback. If you're going to do that.
And Williams, you just don't know from week to week. Obviously, you've got to keep an eye on CEH. I know that's tonight. But if CEH is healthy or if he's going to play, you got to start him. If not, then, stay away from Slayton, and you can go with Williams and I forget who the third was that you said.
Judy.
Yeah, you can go with that. But I think it all hinges upon CEH's health. And if he's going to play, you start him and Judy. If not, then you can go with Williams. But
do you have Lev Bell just in case?
Okay. Well,
do you have Le'Veon Bell just in case as your backup?
Hey, Campbell, do you have Le'Veon Bell as a backup just in case?
I do.
Okay.
So
so there you go. If CEH doesn't play, go with Bell.
Yeah, for sure.
That backfield locked up, go with Bell. Yep, absolutely. Nice and fresh.
You guys are saying basically go with Judy in the slot and then do CEH or Bell.
Correct. Yes, absolutely. And please call me Seth, not Mr. Lubin, but I appreciate the respect.
What a gaffe that was. All right. One of the things we talked about on last show.
Thank you, Campbell.
Yeah, thank you. By the way, great question.
I really appreciate the help. This is legit.
No,
Anytime, man. Take care.
Good luck.
We talked about last week 100-yard rushers, and I just felt like there was an incredible fall off this year between this year and last year. And we finished everything, right? Are we doing defenses?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. And you know something? The numbers were accurate. In 2019, through week 12, there was a total of 80. Is that another call coming in?
Another call, but keep going. It's all right. Kenneth, we'll get right to you.
There was a total of 83 100-yard rushers at this time. And this year, we've fallen from 83 down to 60.
Wow, so you were right. Your intuition was correct.
It just felt like it. There was over a 20% drop off. You're talking about 23 less per game. And can you guys guess who's coming in at number one most 100-yard rushing games so far this season?
Cook or Henry?
Henry.
Believe it or not, Cook is number 3. I can't believe Henry is number 1 at 7. You're going to be surprised who's number 2. Very surprised who's number 2. And it's Nick Chubb, missing all that time. But it seems like
every week he's played, he's gotten 100 yards.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Listen, I love Chubb. So Henry has 7, Chubb has 6, and Dalvin Cook, yes, several have 5. But Cook has 5. But that is a huge drop off from one year over the next. And the point of this being, you know, we talk about the first couple of rounds who to draft. To me, it is like if you can get those bell cow running backs that are going to get to the 100-yard games, they are just more valuable than ever.
That's good. Thank you for looking that up. We appreciate it. We know you were talking about it on Tuesday, and I'm glad you researched that. So thank you. Yeah. We're going to actually stay over. We usually end the show after an hour, but we actually been getting a lot of comments and questions and phone calls, and so we're going to stay on a little bit longer. And Kenneth, we have you on the phone. How you doing?
Pretty good. In case anyone's wondering about CEH, according to what I'm hearing from Adam Schefter of ESPN, he is saying that he is expected to play, but they want to make sure, they want to see how he's feeling during pregame.
Right, exactly. Mm-hmm. Okay, we appreciate that, Kenneth. Thank you.
I just got a text from someone who's called, I believe, called in or made comments in the show, and it's a friend of mine up in Chicago, and he goes, "Effing fantasy football." He goes, "I have no running backs." So I don't know if I said who, asking who is CEH and Swift. So
if Peterson's out there, I'd grab him.
I doubt he is, but it's crazy.
In one of my son's leagues, all of the not just the backups, but the backups to the backups are all taken. Right. They have a big roster. They've got, I think, 14 people in the league, so there's nothing available. And if you are in trouble, if you don't draft 7 running backs, you are not going to have, you're going to have a problem. And my son, unfortunately, he had Eckler and CMC. So at least he gets Eckler back. But for a while there, he's been streaming every week, like these bad running backs.
I want to get back. So I know, Commish, you have something to bring up. I know we just talked about the 100-yard running backs. I have something that I've seen it for a while. I just finally signed up on this site, so I'm doing it this week. So I want to ask your guys' opinions on it. But I want to know, 2020, what you are doing about your running back situation today. I'm very curious.
What is the you're talking about the Kamara?
I've got Latavius Murray, Alvin Kamara. I can't play. I was excited to play Swift, my new toy, but he's out. So I honestly think that I'm not going to get cute. And I'm leaning towards Kamara and Jonathan Taylor, although I am still only about 40 to 50% convinced on that. And I am still very much considering
Kamara and
starting both of them, Latavius Murray and Alvin Kamara. And again, the logic being,
one of them goes off. Yeah,
one of them's going to go off, and if you get 25 points on one, and the other one only gets you 7 or 8, that's 35 points. Let me ask you guys a question. I'm curious for this logic. If you knew going into the week you were going to get 17 and 18 from your RB1 and RB2 respectively, would you be? Is that to me? That's good.
Yes, that is good.
So I'm curious, and I'm not asking.
I think this is such an amazing. I think this is such a great fighting for your playoff spot. This is such a great decision and fun. I know we think it's great because we don't.
So you know what?
I'm curious.
put yourself in my shoes for a minute. What would you do in this position? And I do have Adrian Peterson, but I hate the matchup against Chicago with Swift out, so I don't really think that's on the table. But I have Peterson to throw in that. So it's Peterson, Taylor, Kamara, and Lat Murray. Pick two. I'm curious.
Well, I've secured a bye, so I don't even need to win for the next 2 weeks. But
Thanks for the answer, Commish. Do I need to call into the show with the fake voice? Hi, this is Terry Van Halen. I've got Murray and Kamara.
So pick two between Kamara, Murray
and Taylor.
Peterson.
Taylor, and
Jonathan
you have
Taylor.
to throw in Adrian
Oh,
Peterson.
you got to go with.
You have
with
Peterson
Taylor.
as well.
You got to go with Taylor and Kamara.
So you would not play Murray as well, even
No.
though he had 25 points last week and 20 the week before.
I think you should just go with Taylor and Peterson.
You're such an asshole. Answer the question. So, Commish, seriously,
I don't know.
With Latavius Murray against Atlanta, putting up 25 points and 20 points respective weeks.
And you have the problem with Taylor is he's coming back off his injury, or was it COVID? Was he on the COVID list?
It was COVID.
Okay.
And he just had 22 touches the week before.
I know, but we've seen players come back off the COVID and not do great.
I know.
It depends on how it affected them and how
Hines looks so good.
I don't
have confidence in anything. Like, no, seriously. Like, I can tell you, which I just did, Kamara Murray, but Taylor, but I don't have confidence in that. I'm not telling you.
But that's what you would go with in my.
I think
I would have the same dilemma you have right now. I wouldn't know what to do, and I would be asking people, and then end up making my own decision, and then hoping that somebody validates what I'm thinking.
I think
out of
free fantasy shows.
I honestly think your best bet is to go with, and I'm being serious here. I think your best bet is to go with Kamara and Murray.
I really think I'm going to do that, man. Because against Atlanta, they've got it's the whole game script. They have such a good defense in New Orleans. Atlanta's going to have trouble moving the ball. They're going to have the ball so much. Taysom Hill is not great at throwing the ball, so there goes the half-point PPR receptions. I just feel like they're going to put up a lot of yards on the ground. So if I've got the whole backfield,
you have to pray that when they get inside the 10, it's not Hill scoring touchdowns. It's either Kamara or.
But Murray has been getting.
Let me tell you guys something.
Go ahead.
And I know all we could do is look at stats and kind of pontificate on what we think. Atlanta is actually fourth in the league in points against running backs for their defense. Yes, they have a very porous pass defense, but against the run, they've only given up 14 points per game to running backs per game, not per running back, per game. So keep that in mind. If you're going to be starting two of the Saints running backs against the fourth best rush defense, I don't know.
I want to see how they did in their first game against Atlanta.
In the meantime,
what did you have to bring up?
Real quick, and I know that Keith's son had brought up the Tyreek Hill question. I got burned by Tyreek Hill last week, right? I would have won had it not been for Tyreek Hill, but I didn't need to win, so it's okay. But I'm just when I looked, I was like, my God, it's historic. And I texted my opponent, who was Mike, and I congratulated him. I said, it's epic, it's historic. Like, it's hard to be upset when somebody goes off for 269 yards and 3 touchdowns, right? Because that's appreciation of football.
At least they were nice about it and did most of it in the first quarter. So like you're paying, it's not like watching the whole game and paying. Yeah. It's just the first quarter.
That's correct. So then I thought, what other receivers just went off? And I remember back in the 90s, I remember a Jerry Rice game because I had Jerry Rice, and I just remember that when I played Jerry Rice, I believe he almost beat the other team in total, just himself. So I started looking back at some of it, and would you believe that fantasy stats wise, and we're talking about a standard fantasy, we're not talking about super bonuses and distance bonuses and things like that, that the Tyreek Hill performance last week was actually 6th on the list of fantasy points per game by a wide receiver. Number one, the one I was talking about, Jerry Rice, he had 225 yards and 5 touchdowns. And I remember, in fact, Brad, I think you were even there. We were We were at some sports bar, and we were watching the game. I believe it was a Monday night game, and it was just.
I think it might have been at the ice skating place.
Might have been. I don't remember. Yeah. But that was insane. But other people, Jimmy Smith with the Jaguars, 291 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Oh, Jimmy Smith.
September of 2000. These are guys that had, better weeks. Now, who had like one of the top as far as running backs? Clinton Portis, 218 yards and 5 touchdowns back in 2003.
Was that with Denver or Washington?
Washington, I believe.
Probably Washington.
Portis, no, this was when he was with the Broncos.
Oh, the Broncos.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I'm just saying, like this year, there's been a lot of really good performances, but it's the Tyreek Hill one is the only one that has gotten into the top 10 of fantasy scoring. Let me take that back. We try not to talk about kickers in this on this podcast, but Steven Gostkowski, who's looked terrible this year. He actually got 4th best in kicking with 25 points back at the beginning of the season. But other than that, Tyreek Hill's the only one that has even hit the top 10 of fantasy performances in the past. Despite the fact that we've had Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry and Gibson in some really incredible games.
Yeah, and are you putting quarterbacks in there?
Well, quarterback too. I mean, Michael Vick, he had 4 passing touchdowns and 2 rushing touchdowns and 333 yards back in 2010.
Wow.
So, yeah, if you put quarterbacks in there, even then you're not hitting the numbers that –
because we've had some great quarterback performances this year, but not historic.
Not historic. Even Mitch Trubisky with his 6 touchdowns for the Bears back in 2018. So, yeah, nobody's come close this year to breaking into the top 10.
Does Trubisky have 6 touchdowns since then?
Probably not.
Definitely 6 interceptions.
So let's do this. Brad, I know you have something very interesting to bring up. If we're going to be done in about 5 minutes, so if anybody has any last-minute questions, give us a call or comment now, and we will get to it. In the meantime, Brad, let's end this thing. What do you have?
Okay, so I've had an eye on this. It's basically an app. It's a site. And basically, it's a gambling site, right? It's an over-under pick'em site just for fantasy sports. And they don't just have football. They have baseball. They have other sports. Of course, all we care about is, or I care about right now, is fantasy football. So you go in and you could do 2, 3, or 4 picks, and you get paid out based on that and how much you bet, obviously. And it's like if you pick 2 and that's correct, I think it's 3 times your money. If you pick 3 and get those correct, it's 5 times. And if you do 4, it's 10 times.
But it's under on a player's performance?
Yeah, on fantasy points. And it's a full point PPR, 1 yard, kind of standard 1 point for 10 yards, blah, blah, blah. Touchdowns and everything. And they don't list every player in the league, but there's like 30 plus player. I didn't count exactly how many. I just went through and picked out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different players that I'm like, okay, I'm going to use these 6 players this week, and I'll do like probably a 3-team pick 'em.
So do you have the 6 players and what their over mark is?
I do.
Try it out.
Yes.
So let's do it. Let's see what we got.
So James Robinson, over/under 18 points.
And he's playing
Minnesota.
Over/under 18 points, and it's full point PPR?
It's a full point PPR, yes.
I'm going to go over.
Okay.
What is the number of points?
18.
I'm going under.
Are you going to mark these, Brad? Because I'm curious to see how we do.
I think it's going to be about 15.
Okay, I'm going to mark them. I'm going to actually bet on these based on how we, I'm not going to use all 6. I'll do a 2, maybe a 3, maybe even a 4. We'll see how it plays out. Okay.
So what are you going with, over or under?
I think I'm going to go with an over here.
Okay. So let's do for over.
Okay.
Oh, you know what? Hold on 1 second. And you said full point PPR?
Full point PPR.
All right, I'm going over.
This app is actually called Prize Picks.
This is interesting. I like this.
Yeah, it's actually cool. Okay, Devontae Parker, 15.5. Now that with Tua, I think I'm going with the under here.
I'm going under as well.
Under.
Yep.
Okay, all under. Derrick Henry, 21.5 against Cleveland.
Over.
21.5.
Yeah.
I'm going to go under.
You're going under.
That's just a
your own
lot
guy.
of points for a running back.
I mean,
It is.
that's yeah. I'm gonna.
He doesn't
it's
get catches. The PPR doesn't mean
I know.
anything in this
I know.
game.
I know.
So what you're saying is you're
He's gonna
talking
get 2
about
touchdowns
right.
and 60 yards, or 1 touchdown and 150 yards, which
And
is kind
he's
of
the focus
low
on-
end right now.
He is Derrick Henry from like week 12 on. There's just no one better in football. He's proven that 3 years in a row.
And as
So
a Dolphins fan, by the way, we're rooting for Tennessee today. I'm going to throw that out there.
Against Houston, yes, we are.
No, against Cleveland.
Oh, yes, for wild card, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I think so. Where are you, Brad? Under or over on Henry?
I'm going over.
Yep,
On Henry.
He's just too
Brad,
good.
did you want me to pull up the banner that you prepared?
Oh yeah, let's bring that up. Okay.
there we
Yeah,
go.
sorry, I forgot I made that. Okay. So yeah, this has all of them, so you guys can actually. So Jamison Crowder, 11.5 against Las Vegas.
I don't bet on Crowder.
But it's PPR. I'm going to go over. I think he'll get 5-6 grabs, 50 yards. That's 11.5 points.
Yeah. Okay, so Seth is under.
No, I don't bet on Crowder.
You don't bet on Crowder. Okay. Next is David Montgomery with 16. He had
Under.
a nice week.
Wow. Who's Chicago playing again?
They played Detroit.
Montgomery, 16 points.
Yeah.
I'm going to go over.
You're
He just
going
had a really
over.
good week.
And
he's
I'm
He
under.
did. I think last week the one run he had of I think it was about 60 yards was like bigger than his total of any game
It's true.
all year.
He might get 3 of those against Detroit, though.
That's true. I'm actually going to go over with Montgomery this week. And then Brandon Cooks at 15.5 against Indy.
Oh, I'm going
Over.
especially
Over.
with PPR. Yeah.
So over and over.
Yeah,
Okay.
7 catches, 80 yards gives us that
This
right
site, you can go on and sign up for it. You don't. I don't know if you have to. You don't have to put money in to look at it, but it's called Prize Picks. Maybe it'll be our sponsor for next season. We'll give them a call and talk to them. But I just find it cool that it's just a gambling site just for based on fantasy, which is pretty cool. So I'll go in and put a bet in. I'll let you know how it goes.
Very nice.
And we have this also written down.
So, Commish, I want to tell you something. I thought it was very interesting. Luckily, I actually have, and I don't want to keep going. It's just interesting what you said, Kamara, with Atlanta's rush defense being a number 4. I looked at if I started both of them against Atlanta just 2 weeks ago, it would have been 20 points. You don't think the question is the rush defense that good because they're so porous against the pass that no one is rushing against them, or is their rush defense just that good? But it is an interesting point to sway.
That was also Taysom Hill's first game, right, at quarterback.
And that's true. It was
2 weeks
Taysom Hill's
ago.
first game at quarterback.
Right.
That was. Yeah. So interesting.
Yeah. And he's all the way to his third start now. So
Yeah. Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. All the way there. All right, guys. Great show. I don't see any more questions coming in.
Yeah, I think we're going to end it for today, and then we'll start it back up on Tuesday. In the meantime, I know we have a game Tuesday night, Tuesday afternoon, right?
I think it's Tuesday night.
You're right. It is
Tuesday night.
Tuesday night.
Tuesday night,
Tuesday night. So we may put the show off until Wednesday, but we'll talk about that internally, and we will let you all know. In the meantime, have a great day today. We got football today, tonight, tomorrow, Tuesday,
And then Thursday.
And Thursday.
It's good to be a man. It is good to be a man.
All right, guys. Take care.
All right. Good luck, everybody, today.
All righty.